Welcome to the Profitable Farmer podcast, where we share stories and tips to help you run a better farming business and create your very own freedom farm. If you're looking to work smarter and not harder in your farm business, welcome. You're in the right place. G'day everyone, welcome again to Profitable Farmer. I hope this finds you incredibly well. We've had such amazing feedback recently about two specific podcasts. One with Hayley and Martin Grosser, episode 132, and then another with Carla and Sam Armitage, episode 133. And you've heard me say before that one of the best parts of this gig and the Profitable Farmer podcast is just sharing success stories of the members of the Farm Owner Academy community that are just achieving such incredible results over our time with them. It gives me incredible pleasure to introduce Andrew and Cassandra, Kath, to you. Andrew and Cassandra are part of our alumni, having completed the Platinum Mastermind program over the last few years. They own Kathleigh Farms near Echuca in Victoria. And like Sam and Carla and like Marty and Hayley, just have such an incredible story to share. Just encourage you to listen to this a couple of times and look for the lessons, because I think so often as farming families, we can feel stuck and we can feel like we're on our own and doing it tough. But with a fresh perspective and with real intent and real passion and real persistence, like you'll hear from Cass and Andrew in this conversation, so much can be achieved over what is quite a relatively short amount of time. So Cass and Rusty, wonderful having you with us. Thank you so much for your time and welcome to Profitable Farmer.
Thanks, Hutch. It's great to be here.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
So I love dialing in for this conversation to find out that you guys are having a week's holiday at Mooloolaba. How is it up there and how are things at home?
The conditions are always perfect is my saying to that. Although it's raining and I wanted a bit of sunshine to go fishing, I'm just thoroughly thankful for being here. And things at home are well underway and yeah, it's good. We're chopping silage as we speak. So it's nice to be away and have a team around us.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to exploring that a bit further. Perhaps to kick us off, would you mind, Cass, just explaining your connection to agriculture and how you got into agriculture early in your journey?
Yep, sure, Hutch. So I grew up just north of Sydney on the Central Coast, just on a little hobby farm, but started studying agriculture at high school. And our high school had a small show team of dairy cattle, stud jerseys. And I rolled up to Cattle Club, it was called, and just loved it, loved the cows, and really sparked my interest in dairy cattle, the dairy industry and agriculture in general. And then went on to study agricultural science at uni, majoring in anything dairy that I could get my hands on. I just absolutely loved it. And yeah, final year at uni, did my major project on dairy reproduction, went on to work on a dairy farm and in animal genetics in the dairy industry. And surprisingly met a dairy farmer from Queensland. So yeah, uprooted from Albury on the New South Wales Vic border and moved up to Toowoomba in Queensland to be with Andrew. And when I moved up there, I started working for the NAB in agribusiness for a couple of years as well, till we decided that I would become full-time in the dairy business that we had at the time.
Amazing. So always have had a deep connection to agri and in particular to dairy, Cass.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, the show cows, it was always something that I guess Andrew and I had in common together. That's how we met. And although it's only a very small part of what we do now, the social connections and watching our kids start doing some of that sort of stuff, it's great it's a great way for young people to get involved in the dairy industry especially.
Absolutely. My son's just hooked on the sheep industry equivalent and getting to those shows and being absolutely part of that through his school. And it's a great way to get into the industry, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And Andrew, for you, what's your sort of backstory and link in the early years to farming and agriculture?
Probably like anyone who grows up on the land hutch, it was always you probably felt it was a drag to have to be on the farm because, you know, getting up every morning with cows or seeing your grandfather do the job, but it just rubbed off on me over times that it actually become something that was instilled that was really important to me to be part of that industry. So yeah, from a young age, loved the show cows as well, but really became quite interested in the business. As I went through high school, I realised there was another whole thing to this, and that was my kick for it, that I wanted to leave school. It never was part of me, but really enjoyed the farming and needed to find that link between the two of them. So yeah, from 16, I started dairying with my grandfather and my father, and progressed from there.
And so how long were you part of that family business? I think it was in Toowoomba, Andrew, and you know, how do you reflect on your time there?
I was probably 8 years working with my parents. Then Cass came along, we started share farming. So it was a different way of looking at the business of such. The reflections of it is I got so much joy out of it, but also had so much frustration with it as well, because I wanted to grow, but never felt as though I had the skills to be able to do that. And then when Cass came along, it was actually the piece that I knew I needed to actually make this journey work.
So was that the point that you backed yourselves to go share farming? And did you do that on the family farm or on a separate property?
No, on the family farm. We had some conversations with my parents about it, and we wanted to just expand in our own right. We wanted to challenge ourselves and take control of our own destiny, and we thought that was the way to go about it. So share farming was the way that we started to work on it.
And initially,
sorry, Cass, go on.
Initially, the share farming was sort of instead of just wages, we were on a share of the milk check to give us some more skin in the game. And the farm was quite small. We only sort of milked 50 to 60 cows, and I was working off farm. But yeah, that initiation into share farming helped us feel like we're actually starting to run a business. And Andrew's dad had always worked off farm, so the dairy farm was sort of supplemented by off farm building business. So yeah, and small scale.
And I understand then a move to Forbes from Queensland. Would you mind explaining that transition and how you arrived into New South Wales?
Yeah, so after the share farming in Queensland, in Toowoomba, the next step was we actually got the opportunity to buy that farm. Andrew's granddad needed sort of retirement plans, and there was zero succession planning and a zero finance planning on how to accommodate him needing a retirement home. So fortunately, we had some off-farm assets. We had our house in the local town and another unit. We could actually, had the equity to buy that first, the small farm in Queensland. And over sort of a 10-year period, we went from the 50, 60 cows to about 170 and expanded the dairy and feeding systems, etc. But we'd really maxed it out, and our irrigation water up there was under threat. So through some contacts that we knew, we actually were offered to go to Dubbo, was our first step, Narromine actually, to do a contract management role on a 300 to 400 cow farm on the Macquarie River. And it was a very hard decision to leave the family farm, but we knew we needed to move on to keep growing. So we leased out our little farm in Queensland and went to Narromine for this contract managing role, kept some of our cows and some machinery. And we did that for 18 months. And I can remember we were sort of so worried, would we have the skills to run a 300 cow farm? And also running the team. And it was our first experience actually having to be responsible for staff members, which was, a great learning curve for us. And that arrangement ended, and we were looking for another place to go because we had dairy cows. Like, we need 12 hours between one farm and the next farm. So we came across someone looking for a Sydney-based guy looking for someone to come and get a ex-dairy farm back up and running as a dairy. And yeah, we sort of entered an arrangement there we provided the skills, the labour and the cows and the machinery, and the owner provided the land, and we were in like a sort of a 50-50 arrangement, income and expenses. So yeah, that was in, I can't exactly remember. It was in about 2015 that we moved to Forbes, just to do this next phase. And for us, that was a scale up because we could expand our cow numbers.
Thanks, Cass. So, Andrew, how long were you in that project in Forbes, and how did it play out for you?
3.5 years we spent in Forbes. The project was actually one of those life-changing projects for us that changed the way we looked at ourselves and each other, and the way we looked at business in a totally different way that I never thought was possible. Although it didn't end the way we wanted it to end, it had so many life lessons through it that, yeah, we'll be ever thankful for that. The hardship that we went through there, we'll be forever thankful for it.
So, Cass, how do you reflect on your time in Forbes and where you got to after 3.5 years?
Similar to what Andrew said, Hutch, we did learn a lot through that experience. And prior to that point, our passion for the dairy industry and we were hard workers. That's how we got to a certain point. But everything we tried didn't work. And it was very tough financially with a business partner that didn't have the same values around paying bills and all that sort of thing as we did. And we were the people on the ground in the town. So it was really confronting going to football training and you owed the football coach money because the other person in the business wasn't playing the game. So despite thinking we had watertight arrangements and share farm agreements and the consultants helping us, whichever avenue we tried to get a fair playing field with this business partner didn't work. And it took us, and especially me, I thought we could outwork. Hard work would get us there. So at that time, we would be up at 3:30 every morning, week after week, starting milking at 4, doing 12-hour days plus. Didn't have a lot of staff because we couldn't afford it. And we were just running ourselves into the ground. But it really was, we started doing take control through farm owners, and we only got a little bit through the program when they got to the section about values. And I can still see us sitting in the garage listening to that part about values and just going, oh my gosh, we're never going to get anywhere here. We're going to have to look for plan B. We're going to have to quit this because we just can't get the next thing. And although it was really challenging, it actually made us better. We got better at getting our invoices done on time and planning our weeks and all that sort of thing because we were in this pressure cooker. So, yeah, lots of stress, but lots of learnings.
How much stress and pressure did you feel then? No doubt that was incredibly tough, working huge hours and being in a partnership or a relationship like that just wasn't working for you. I feel like there's lots of farming families out there that might find themselves in less than ideal professional relationships, and perhaps we persist with them and, as you say, work hard as our way of trying to resolve them. How was that? What was your reality like then?
I think it was alarms, like how many alarms can you set to make sure you get up in the morning and feeling like you just shut your eyes, and coffee straight away, halfway through milking another coffee, just the extreme physical fatigue. And just even at the point, like I remember my hair was falling out. It was physical as well. And you know, needing, if you had to drive the kids to sport, for example, and Andrew's experienced this too, like we'd have to stop and have a sleep on the road, or you'd get to sport and we'd be asleep in the car, or I'd have my computer trying to do a bit of book work. I don't think I was actually ever present anywhere. And just, yeah, heart racing all the time, scared to answer the phone, anxiety, and people around us that cared about us tried to tell us, but we just couldn't see it.
I think alcohol played a big portion in that as well. Like we always thought it was okay to try and soften the blow of a nighttime by, you know, a couple of beers or wine or whatever it was, that you just felt as though that was the lever you could pull to try and drop some of the stress down. And it actually came to the realization that this was putting a wedge between us as well, not just our relationships in the town, but our relationship personally, that we were sacrificing that for our dream that someone else was taking away from us.
Burnout's a real thing, isn't it? You know, we see it so often in our industry, and I think we're all so good at just persisting through less than ideal situations. Andrew, how real was it for you now, looking back? How close were you to burnout, and how long did you persist with that for, do you think?
Probably before being part of Farmer, and as you heard of burnout, but you always probably thought it was just, that doesn't happen to me. It's not really, it's just a cop-out for people. But now that you understand the meaning of burnout, for me, it was a real thing, and I just never acknowledged it. When, you know, you used to go down and shift the irrigation and you would cry just because you felt emotional about what hasn't happened, or I don't, you know, I might have got a phone call. I made a phone call that I need more fertilizer and I can't get that fertilizer, and then trying to ring Cass to say, where can we get this money from? So the realization of that and acknowledging now what actual burnout was, that the fact that you had to pull up on the road and have a sleep while you were on the way home from sport, as Cass was saying, or, you know, the disbelief that you had in yourself that you weren't worthy enough or you weren't good enough to be in this position. It's something that I think we all feel it, but we just don't actually acknowledge it and actually want to share it. And we're not aware of it. Like, it's just part of so much, I believe, now of farming, or was part of farming, that it's now becoming to light that it's okay to share it.
Absolutely. So what happened next?
So it was, yeah, sort of mid to late 2019. The share farming arrangement was still sort of plummeting out of control. The drought was coming in to New South Wales. The farm owner started dramatically changing the rules, as in to suit himself. And we were sort of kept getting backed into a corner. We owned all these cows, we had to feed them, but he was sort of limiting access to certain parts of the farm. And we started to think, okay, how do we get out of here? Also in that process, there was some legal action starting to happen to try and get, say, the rules of the share farming agreement were not being adhered to. And yeah, in New South Wales, that's done through like a tribunal. So that was also starting to happen at a similar time, but it was a very precarious situation. Legal action with a farm owner, you're still on the farm every day, you've still got to keep farm operations happening. And with dairy, like I said, we can't sort of switch anything off. So we started to look for some options of what we could do. We had these cows, we had machinery. What do we do next? And we were offered some senior management roles in a large corporate dairy that was quite close to us. And would have really solved a lot of problems for us. We could have sold our cows, sold our machinery, and really helped the precarious financial position we're in, because we were really at rock bottom. And we sort of felt that would be great, but at the end of the day, we'd worked so hard to, you know, be in business ourselves, and that was still a real priority for us. So we had a great dairy consultant from Victoria who gave us a few leads, and sort of found one option at Rochester, an older farmer that was looking for senior staff, not necessarily share farming or leasing, but we managed to, negotiate an option with them to, move to Rochester and start a share farming arrangement. So we physically sort of, took us a couple of months, but that was sort of January, February of 2019 that really kicked off.
I want to jump ahead, if we could, and just explore where you find yourselves today, because as you said, Cass, that was rock bottom. You know, in a relationship where you weren't values aligned, having massive implications on your health and well-being and on family relationships and on your standing in the community, huge financial stress, massive workloads. So can only imagine just how stressful that was for you both. Would you mind just describing for us your business, Kathleigh Farms, today? The team, your milking numbers, and just describe the business today, because I think it's amazing to give people a sense of where you've arrived to, you know, 5 years on.
So now we are still in Northern Victoria, but 6 weeks ago we moved to our own dairy farm at Nanila, which is near Echuca. So we were able to sell our small farm in Queensland, but also to help fund the purchase of our own farm. And also we've rebuilt our herd numbers to approximately 550 milking cows and replacements. We own all the machinery, etc. So while we were share farming, we're able to build our stock numbers, build our machinery inventory, and also really fortunate to start building a great team around us. When we moved to Nanila, we sort of had a good business model that we could pick up from the Rochester share farm and move to our own farm at Nanila. Our staffing, we've got an amazing couple that we've sponsored from the Philippines. They joined us, Bernalyn joined us approximately 7 or 8 months ago. And her husband came out on her visa, but we didn't really have a position for him at the time. But her husband, Melvin, started with us full-time the week that we physically moved farms. So nothing like a baptism of fire, like moving cows. Never been around cows before, but he's done an amazing job. And we have 2 additional full-time dairy staff. We use some backpackers, and we've also got another sponsored employee hopefully arriving soon from Kenya to join us more on the feeding team on the farm. So it's been a really exciting 6 to 8 week period that we're back in farming on our own terms again.
I want to say sincerely congratulations to have navigated share farming through quite a few relationships and to have purchased that farm and moved onto it. I know that's been a goal of yours collectively for some time, but it's just a major achievement, and we're really excited for you that you now find yourselves operating a farm that you own in your own right.
Oh, 100%, Hutch. It's quite humbling to be able to track through that experience and end up back in a position that you can actually be super proud of. And it's exciting to think that we can be there and be there in our own rights without having someone else tell us what to do or having to consult someone else what to do. But in saying all that too, the journey's been very lesson learning along the way, whether it be the Forbes farm or the Rochester farm, like being able to come to a new area and be able to have a mentor for a period of time to actually show you the right way to farm in this area actually saved us a lot of hurdles and a lot of heartache as well along the way. So although it hasn't always been easy, there's been a lot of great relationships along the way that we've made and things that we'll always be grateful for along the way. And so to me, this is just the start point again. Like, yes, we've done a full wheel of leaving and coming back, where now we're just back at phase one again. And let's hope the next phase can actually not take as many dips. It can just be a lot more ups and a less bumpy roads.
I'll ask that question now. How does the future look from where you are now, perhaps compared to where you were 5 years ago? Just give us a sense of what's possible now for the base that you've built.
Probably can maybe liken it to a game of chess, that I'm maybe only 1 or 2 moves away from actually the snowball effect actually happening, because we believe we've made the right moves underneath and created some solid ground. It's actually quite exciting and very, very moving to think. And you can look at it with a lot of joy and passion and excitement now, rather than fear and preservation. It's really, there's a lot there to be grabbed a hold of from now. So yeah, it's there in front of us. It's ours to grab if we want it.
And I think too, we've been able to approach the farm that we own now. Like, we have learnt so much along this journey of, you know, whether it is operational, like, you know, it works to have calf pens set up like this, or this doesn't work. So we've been able to really harness all this learning and knowledge and go, before we start milking on this farm, what needs to be done, and how do we make this new farm super friendly for our staff so they can do their job well. So all the hardship has not been in vain. And I think, like Andrew said, you know, another 6-12 months we can really be looking for that operations manager. And we're really, you know, we're sticking to our goal if we want to reach 1,000 cows. So, you know, looking for that next operation to lease or potentially purchase is strongly in our sights.
Amazing. So just to reflect back over your last 5 years, I think we came to know you about then. How hard, or what have you implemented that's helped you build out the strength of your business so that it can sort of, you've got the foundations and the team then to grow? What have you worked on?
Hutch.
Mindset to start with. We didn't realize how battered and bruised mentally and physically we were, and also how attached we were to the story of these bad things have happened to us. And we weren't, and we were also, although we had moved to a new arrangement of share farming, I was especially still very fearful, lack of trust, and, you know, a scarcity mindset that, of course, was very inbuilt when you're living almost day to day financially. But, you know, with some help, we've managed to, get through some of those hurdles and be actually ready to start being able to work on our business until we resolve some of those issues. We just, couldn't think of anything else. It was still survival mode.
First thing comes to mind when you ask that question is there's a whole can of worms underneath that, because I never thought that I had to change my mindset or what was in me to actually move on. I just thought, as we said before, it was outwit, outsmart this by just work. But once I come to terms that it was with me that I had to change, then the whole business could change. And then our relationship could change together, our relationship with the kids and the relationship with service providers, with creditors, any of that then could change. And the fear was that deeply ingrained in us that I can remember at the old farm back in Forbes, there was a ute that used to come and it rattled down there, and you'd have this fear, this heart-burning fear in you. And then we moved to this new farm, and the owner owned a similar ute, rattled in the same way. And it was just that fear that came over you all the time. But to let that go, actually let go of a lot of other stuff as well. And that actually allowed that journey then actually to become very easy to move into and move forward. And the learnings that then we came through to meet you guys, Hutch and Westy and Tracy, it just actually allowed that to grow with a lot more ease, and had a lot of exponential growth then for us. And until we let that go, none of the other stuff could actually sink into my head, because I'm a very physical person that needs to feel it and smell it. And once I got over that fear, then I could actually move on to the learnings that you guys had to teach, which then allowed this next section to all open up to us. So yeah, it's huge. We could go anywhere with this conversation.
So, Kath, you mentioned scarcity thinking for the pressure that you were under, and Rusty, you've mentioned quite a bit of there around fear. How did you face those? How do you not get to that point where you do acknowledge that you have a scarcity mindset or a fear-based perspective, and how did you then go about correcting from there?
I think it's great hearing the terms like scarcity mindset, etc. But the more you learn about it, and you just can actually sort of recognize some of these traits within yourself, and it's linked to people. Well, I found, we wanted to get somewhere so badly and felt that all the steps that we'd taken to try and get where we wanted to kept getting, these major speed bumps. And I guess for me, holding on to that financial stuff was just felt like I guess it was the only thing I felt like I could control. So, how can you spend $20 on that, for example? It was it was control. And little by little, meditations, reprogramming, and also, the help from, our coach through our time in Platinum Mastermind helped me recognize that. And little changes to start with. And, one of my big ones was public holidays, like, double time, I can't pay anyone, we've got to do all the work. And, slowly by slowly, there's one public holiday that everyone can work, and we still have it off. And you can't make the whole change in one move, but it's just a gradual process.
Good one.
I just think, of all of our members, you've just lent into the mindset piece with such intent, both of you, and been so committed to acknowledging some of those fears, doubts, worries, limiting beliefs, and so open to checking in on them and identifying them, and then removing them or letting them go and moving on with a better and stronger perspective. Rusty, what's your take on the mindset shift that you've had personally for your journey?
To start with, I had to change the people that I actually surrounded myself by. And I used to surround myself with people that I found it easy to be around, because I didn't have to challenge myself, or they didn't challenge me to be any better. And once I'd sort of got through that, if I wanted to be better, I needed to change the group that I hung with, or people that I did work with. Didn't matter whether that was an agronomist or a credit provider or anything like that. That's where it started to change for me. And then it led more into, I want to understand this. And it was then Soul Pleaser for me, and then Men's Retreat, and just wanting to keep understanding of why I had those limiting beliefs within myself, and wanting to find the better me within. And that allows then for me to actually show up and ask the right questions of people and be okay with actually surrounding myself with these people that I highly respect, and they actually then started to respect me, and then that's when the fun and really started to kick in, and the growth happens then, and there's so much there that people want to share with you. You just got to be open to listen to that and be okay with being there.
And Rusty, those retreats that you mentioned, I know you've been to a few of those with other members of our FOA community. How have they been for you, and how have they supported you sort of on your personal journey?
They've been greatly supportive to me, because I think that's where I've been able to gain so much but let go of so much as well. And the support, that the confidence that it's given me into growth and to self-belief, it's yeah, I couldn't recommend it highly enough to anyone that's got an inkling of doubt within yourself, or 1 inch of I think I need it, to just recommend you to take that opportunity and go, because the people that are there are only there because they want to be there themselves and share their experience. To the degree that one only happened probably a couple of weeks ago, and I knew the guys were there, and I actually had probably FOMO about it actually happening, because I felt as though I was missing out on that opportunity to share and to grow again. But it was so nice to get feedback from the guys that how much they got out of it, and other people. It's so good just to hear that. It's actually there's a lot of growth in just hearing someone else's journey. It was really good.
So we might give a bit of we'll share the link to that retreat so that people can do their own research on it. Rusty, thank you for that. Kath, how have you seen Andrew change and grow over the last 4 or 5 years? And if you wouldn't mind, what impact has that had back on you and your family and the team?
I think Andrew and I was probably always the more direct one, and probably took charge, and I guess got to a point where I felt I just couldn't do it anymore, and I had a health challenge came on board that I had to really step out of the business. And to see Andrew's confidence and ability, like he knows the stuff, but to actually be able to step into his own power as in a more management role has been great for our business. And also learn Andrew's like natural strengths. Like, we've done our disc profiles, etc. So, he is a people person. That is his strength. So, using that in our business, I'm not so much that way, but it proved to us what a great team we are when we're both working in our genius zone. So that as well. And just also the great connections and friendships Andrew's made with like-minded people from all over Australia who are there to support him and help him keep growing. It's great.
I can only agree. It's just awesome seeing just how confident you are now, Rusty, perhaps compared to back then. It's a distant memory, really, but you're just such a confident, composed character. And mate, I just want to thank you for the way in which you turn up in our community, your generousness and your love and care for other members of our community. It is quite incredible, mate. And it's something that I did want to acknowledge today, is just the impact that you're having back on others in our community is absolutely incredible. So thank you for the way you turn up to FOA.
It's a pleasure, Hutch. It's probably something I never saw myself actually to do, and it's actually now one of my still got to pinch yourself every now and then when people talk to you, because it's actually, you got to go, oh, you are lighting the flame for someone else's journey to grow, and it's really cool to be part of that, and it's very humbling to be acknowledged. Thank you very much.
one of the privileges of sort of graduating from Platinum Mastermind and rolling into Alumni, isn't it? Is then you've got people who are starting on their journey with FOA that you get to mentor and support as one of the more senior members of our community. But you just do that in spades, mate. So thank you for that. Cass, you mentioned a health challenge a good few years ago where breast cancer was something that arrived to you. Would you mind just speaking to that? And just the way in which you navigated that was inspiring for us all. But how challenging was that for you, and how do you reflect on that part of your journey?
Yeah, so it's almost 2 years ago that I had surgery for breast cancer, and then went into treatment with chemotherapy, radiation. So at the time, it's very scary. Like, it's the words that nobody wants to hear. Also, too, for me, it was confronting that a number of 3 to 4 years prior, I had this checked while we lived up in New South Wales and was told, don't worry about it. And at the time, I just was like, oh, thank God, just moved on back to my 80 hours physical work on the farm, never gave it another thought. And I was very fortunate that it was not that aggressive. So if it was a lot more aggressive and had been there that long, I probably wouldn't be here telling this story. And I think the ability for me to say, I've got to drop out of the farm for 6 months. If we hadn't started on this journey of building out some team members and systemising our business, putting on a virtual assistant to help with the bookkeeping, I wouldn't have been able to throw myself into this health journey. And that's what I called it. It was an opportunity for us to reset. And when you dealt with something like cancer or another illness, if we didn't take notice of it and make some even bigger changes in our life and our business, well, it was in vain. So even though we had made changes, I was still doing a lot of, $27 an hour jobs, I suppose, milking, feeding calves. Still, we still were getting a little bit of breaks here and there, but we really took it as a chance to really upgrade the team. So, since then I haven't, yes, occasionally I'm still physical on the farm, but nowhere near what I used to be. And it's taught us that to try and keep really focused on what we want out of this business. So, we are able to do, more things with our family, etc. And also for me, I have to be really firm and with my boundaries of I cannot go back to that place that I used to be in. And, occasionally it slips back, but I have to pull myself out and remember, I don't want to take on all that stress anymore. I need to maintain, things that are good for me. So, and I'm pleased to report I had my 2-year checkup on Friday and I got the all clear, and my surgeon and everything's really happy. So, I know it's not coming back. But and I again appreciate, all the support and learnings that we've got through the community during this process.
Thanks, Cass, and congratulations. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Rusty, question for you. With the mindset work that you've both done, how do you reflect on the way in which Cass has navigated that challenge? And we're just absolutely delighted to have Cass on board with us as a business coach within our community, helping others. How do you feel knowing that Cass is now in that role with us as well, and contributing to the lives and the success of others?
Actually, really exciting to see Cass actually come back into a shining light again. Like, I think through those low periods, we lost sight of actually our capabilities, and actually to see an opportunity given to her to be able to reshine and give her the spark back that we knew she had before. It's very exciting for me to see that. And I love actually seeing her on those calls, or, you know, I even sit now at a deep dive and you actually look at that and go, you can't believe where you were, because I know it was a reflection when we went to Adelaide. Cass said, I'm going to be one of those coaches one day. And we just said like, oh yeah, whatever. But then when the opportunity was given, it was actually quite one of those things to go, oh, the effort has paid off, and, you know, be careful what you actually ask for, because it is given to you. So, but yeah, Hutch, I reflect on what Cass is saying, as in there's three key things through that journey. Our son had an accident in Narromine where he cut off some toes, and we spent a couple of weeks in Sydney. Then we went through the issue in Forbes, and then Cass's breast cancer. And I actually look at them as three very defining moments of life. And I always wondered why, but now, being able to reflect, I can actually see what every learning is for me now. And Cass's stepping into her role is actually just another one of those major learnings that, for me, we never took notice of family. We were just wanted to succeed, and was a bit of a learning for me with Lawson. And then Forbes was, if I want to be ready for business, I actually got to step up and be ready for it. And we weren't ready to be the people we wanted to be, and that lesson taught us that, whether it be systems, be better at our finance, learning to make people a priority. And then the breast cancer was, you haven't listened before, now we're actually going to make you listen. It's either now a choice you have to make, or something will be gone. So, and then the opportunity to coaching is just a whole another seal on that. It actually lets that finish off quite nicely. We've listened to the steps that we've been given, and now the next thing's being presented to us. So yeah, life is quite a journey, but you just have got to be able to recognise what they're for. And some of us take a little bit longer to actually recognise those learnings than others. And I'm one of those ones that took a bit longer, and it nearly got taken away a number of times, but it's been given back to me tenfold now.
Thanks for saying that, mate. Just the way in which you've both tackled those moments of adversity, and the way you've bounced back, and the way you've embraced the lessons that come from them, and have then built on those to achieve so much more each time. It's just such a credit to you.
The lessons come though over time as well. They don't happen overnight. Like meditation, who would have ever thought of a dairy farmer doing meditation? But I know I needed that, and it allowed all this to come. Who would have thought I needed a men's retreat, or, you know, Cass needed a ladies' retreat? Yeah, it's interesting how us as tough farmers or big farmers, that we don't think we need this. We're different, and we're not. We're just the same.
A couple of questions for you, just to pick up on some of the themes that have come out of this conversation. What would you say to someone in their sort of mid-20s who, you know, are early in their farming career and coming off humble beginnings? What would you say to them, given, you know, your journey and where you're arriving to? What piece of advice would you give to a young farmer?
I think I would learn about business. We've done so much because we just loved it and we're passionate about it. But you can almost, you know, loving something isn't enough when times are tough and the business model's not right. So, you know, ask lots of questions, look for great mentors, and look for the people that can challenge you to become better in business and better in yourself. Because it's easy to find people that tell you what you want to hear, but you need to learn. You want the truth so you can really optimize and build a great business.
Great comment. Cass, thank you. Rusty, what would you say to farming families out there that might be tolerating a less than ideal professional relationship where perhaps they're not values aligned?
don't be afraid to have that discussion together, although it mightn't be what the other person wants to hear, or it mightn't be the easiest conversation. Take that step and have that conversation. And if it's not easy to do by yourself, get somebody just to help you out with it. Get someone to facilitate that conversation, because sometimes it's stuck within us and we just can't get it out. And some people actually allow that to happen in a non-confrontational way with your family, friends, or your family or your business partners.
Next question is, what would you say, Cass, to someone who is under real pressure and feeling financial duress and maybe identifying that they're playing from fear? What would your advice be to them to help them make a more meaningful step forward?
I think you've got to not let, say, some unfortunate circumstances define you, as in that's how I let it become all about my failure, although it was just a bad circumstance. So, potentially, livestock prices have crashed, or there's droughts, there's elements of this that you can't control. So, being able to just to take a step back and separate you from that circumstance, if it's quite dramatic, could be a first step. And also to getting yourself in a good headspace. So, there's so many things you can do to just, lift that energy a little bit. So it might be go for a walk, or if you love tennis or something like that, just to help you feel that little bit better. But then it's also not being afraid of the truth. So, being honest and preparing a budget, or, what helped me when we had a lot of creditors, I used to listen to some, I think it was Dave Ramsey, an American guy, and he talked about the debt snowball. Like, I had to be on the front foot with people because I needed their support in our business. So I did list down everyone, and I started working out a plan to pay people off in little chunks, and, being on the front foot. It was hard to make those calls, but hey, I can't pay you this month. Can I pay you this month and this month? And I guess one of our greatest stories out of all that cash flow pressure is the grain supplier to the dairy farm in Forbes. When we left there, we probably owed him, I don't know, 60 or 80,000, and it took us 18 months to pay him off. However, we communicated the whole way, and when the last payment went through, like the next day, this big bunch of flowers arrived, and he sent us a letter and said, congratulations, guys. You've paid me off. Thank you so much. And we're still in contact, randomly with that guy 5 years later. So just, you can't deny some of the facts, but really just lifting your mindset a little bit and working out a plan and communicating it with your creditors or your bank or whoever can really help. And also there's lots of there's some great meditations about scarcity mindset and abundance. I listen to those meditations like day after day after day, because I had to work so hard on reprogramming my mind. So yeah, there's lots of great tools.
Rusty, how important is it as business owners to make sure we're surrounding ourselves with the right people?
I think it's critical that we surround ourselves with the right people. I think for a long time, I probably surrounded myself with people because it was easy rather than being challenging. And I think farm owners for me actually let me have a group of people that wanted to achieve the similar thing that I did without questioning. So it's actually quite easy to find people within farm owners that you can surround yourself by and actually let their growth and their abilities rub off on me. So yeah, it's a key part, whether it's within farm owners, within your community, to find those right people to be part of or be an influence in your business or in your life, I think.
Cass, how do you reflect on the impact that Farm Owners Academy the team, the program, the community have had on you and your business?
I'm going to have to use the cliche that it's life-changing. And, you know, we don't say that lightly, because when we really see that pivotal moment when we started to take control and the values piece for us, it was like a lightning bolt. And like, that's why we can so clearly see it 6-7 years later. And, you know, that was, it started the ball rolling. We've always been driven and focused and wanting to get somewhere. And along our journey, we've been able to find, say, you know, a nutritionist to help us with the cow's diet, or an agronomist or a bank manager. But there was always something missing, and we didn't know what the missing piece was. And then with our first interactions with Farm Owners Academy, we sort of were like, you know, this is the part we've been missing. And at the time, yeah, we were quite stretched financially, but signing up to join Platinum Mastermind, we just felt that we just had to do it. And the testimonials from people and seeing other people's growth and success, we were like, yep, that's for us. And we thought we were joining up to really work on our business, and initially we had to really work on ourselves, and that's been, yeah, again, a great part in our success story. The coaching team have been, yeah, such a good support with Tracy. We're fortunate to have Tracy, who really helped us, and, you know, having a coach that you catch up with on a monthly basis to check in, have you done what you said you were going to do? And, you know, that really kept us momentum along the way. Have you done an org chart? Have you done your budget? The other big thing for us was our benchmarking. In the dairy industry, we're fortunate enough, we have our own industry benchmarking that you can participate in, which we've done. But the power of actually doing it through the farm owners system, that really gave us the confidence in our business model. Although we were share farming and it wasn't financially as lucrative as it could be, you know, with Greg's assistance and the benchmarking review to realise we have a really good business model, we just have to get out of share farming. That really just punched us along, and, yeah, really drove us to finding our own farm and, yeah, exiting that share farming arrangement. So, and then I think that the big thing for us is just the connections and the friendships. And, you know, when I went through breast cancer, the amount of people that reached out to me, and yeah, the support, they're people that you may not see, you know, day to day in your life, but you go to a deep dive or a conference and you connect, and everyone's there to support you. And the best part, I think, of the community is you can actually say what I want. Like, I want to milk 1,000 cows, or I want a freedom farm. I want to go to Europe for 6 weeks, and everyone goes, good on you, and supports you. You never actually have to dim your light when you're in the farm owners community.
Wonderful comment, Cass. Thank you. Rusty, for you, how do you reflect on the impact that FOA and the community have had on you over the last few years?
It actually makes me quite emotional to want to speak to that, Hutch, because I probably always disbelieved who I was because I never went to uni or I never had a degree, where for me now, farm owners actually feels as though I have a business degree. I'm actually acknowledged for the knowledge you know and for the person who you've become. And it's probably not been acknowledged, but it's actually been the skills that the farm owners has been able to enhance in me along the way. And as Cass pointed out, to be able to have a coach, it feels so good to have the coach and the people, rather than, I suppose, a lot of men where your wives are always saying, you need to do this or you need to do that. As a reminder, it's actually nice to have somebody else saying that to you, and you're accountable to somebody else apart from your wife or your father and that. So, yeah, it's been, as Cass said, it's just a game changer for me to turn up to any meeting with knowledge of what my bank account is, or how to run a meeting properly, or, you know, how to even work with a team in the right way. And I just never would have thought I would be running a team of people or been able to talk to a bank manager the way that I can, with the understanding of what's there now. Yes, I mightn't be the best at it, and that's probably something that I'm okay with now, as we touched on before, the roles and responsibility. I'm not the CEO of our business. I'm the operations manager, and I'm very happy about that. And it's great to have that clarity of our roles now, because before I probably felt as though I needed to do more, where now, because of the understanding of the learnings, I can actually be the operations manager, and that's my lane, and I stick to my lane.
Amazing. Rusty, thank you. So what I wouldn't mind just speaking to now is what you've actually implemented within your business over the journey. You've got a really strong strategic plan that governs your growth. You do benchmark annually and debrief those results, and you set down meaningful budgets and track your performance against those budgets. You've got an org chart that shapes the structure of your team, incredibly clear core values and standards. You've got job descriptions, people in clear roles. You've got induction programs. You've got recruitment methods. You've got performance review protocols, communication frameworks. I don't know how many systems you would have put in place, checklist forms, those things to support your team. And you're actively building out a team that supports you so that you can take holidays and pursue freedom farming. Just for, I guess, our listeners, Cass, how much change, how many systems, practices, structures have you put in place, and what are a couple of those that have had a really significant impact for you as the business owner?
I guess, like with dairy farming, it's quite a systematic operation, as in we do similar things all the time. You milk the cows twice a day, every day. So we're fortunate enough that actually sort of documenting what we do every day into a system has, it's not easy by any means, but we've been able to do it relatively quickly. And even sort of moving to a new farm, a lot of the things were similar. I guess, yeah, really working out for us what we could get, what was the first thing that Andrew and I could step out of, and that was, say, milking and calf feeding. So, yeah, putting, the systems, even if it's just like laminating them in the dairy, reviewing them at our weekly meetings if something hasn't gone to plan. So, and then also along with those systems, is there equipment that we need to make it easy for someone to do that job? So there's been some of those things put in place. We're fortunate to our, say, cow feeding for certain parts of the year is almost a feedlot diet. So, it's simple as laminating the diet in the loader for the person. And I guess it's got so simple and structured that, our newest team member joined us, and within 3 weeks he was pretty much doing all the feeding of the cows. And it is a job that requires attention to detail, but we've put the tools in front of them. They've just got to follow the recipe. And so we're really trying to translate that to as many areas of our business as we can. And another big one for us was utilising an overseas virtual assistant for our bookkeeping. With share farming, there's a lot of doubling up of invoices between the two businesses. So that was one thing that I could offload. Like, yes, I still got to check through things, but, just it's amazing the output that you can get just having a WhatsApp communication with someone to do your basic bookkeeping. And lots of communication channels for us. We've implemented, Slack within the business, eliminating people having to store information in their heads. So, a calf's born, here's the number, it's in Slack, it's then input into the computer system. So, yeah, there's lots of, little systems that we have implemented. And we've still got areas to go, like when we move into the pasture feeding section of the year, that's something that we really want to work on because we've got that employee that's learning that part of it. I think that's probably our key systems, and also looking, I guess, leverage through our, OH&S and all that, using safe ag systems. someone else has done a lot of the hard work. Okay, how can I tap into that? Our rosters, okay, there's an app for that. I can copy them week to week. So yeah, we've looked for areas that we can simplify, and yeah, we don't want to keep complicating things. So yeah.
Perfect. Rusty, being a people person, how do you describe the team that you've assembled now? How much leverage that gives you and Cass as owners, and the culture that you've created?
I actually find it quite exciting when someone new comes along now, because you get to know somebody new and how they tick, how they work. And I think now we actually can read that quite quickly. For me, it's actually really interesting because Cass lays the rules, but I can soften the blows a little bit, I suppose, because I am that people person. So I actually find it, it's actually really we actually find it quite enjoyable to build that team, because everybody seems to be very clear on their outcomes, but also feels very part of our team and cared about in that response, because it's just not one person laying down the rules. It's someone giving direction, but also someone also giving a hand in another way. And it's, you know, weekly meetings is very easy with a cup of tea and a piece of cake to sit down and feel that they're heard by that. Or you know, every time we get a backpacker, you know, that might be a 6 months one, we go to the pub as the team and have a beer and have a meal, and you know, it's just a welcome and you know, here's meet the team. It's not turning up day one and feeling, where do I start, or who are you? So yeah, I reflect on our team now as actually one of my enjoyments of work. It's exciting, the people I meet from different parts of the world. And I think it's actually really cool for our kids to grow up seeing so many different cultures and tasting so many foods and hearing so many languages. It's actually I actually look at it now as a privilege and an excitement to employ somebody, rather than gee whiz, I've got to teach this person a new way, and how many pieces of machinery are going to get broken and what am I going to have to fix?
And I think Hutch too, the systems we put in place for us to get a backpacker that's got a little bit of farm experience, they can become very useful to us very quickly. And also, yeah, sponsoring people from overseas, there's a whole level of obligation to that's outside of an employment contract. You know, these people have packed up their lives, like you literally pick them up from the airport and they've got a suitcase. And, you know, we have to create their life here. So housing, furniture, all the way down to, you know, you've got to provide a rice cooker, you know, and also making them feel like they're part of something. Like they come from the Philippines where they're surrounded by you know, they know everyone in their village, till they move to Northern Victoria and don't know many people. So our culture of, you know, we do have work dinners, or, you know, randomly it's a pizza night, do you want to come? That really allows, we believe that creates longevity in our team with these overseas people, because they're used to such a strong community, and, you know, we become their community. So we've worked, for us, it does come naturally, but it is part of the success of employing overseas people.
It's amazing to see the way in which you're making your team feel special and the way you're supporting them to settle in Australia, but also then feel like they're part of a really special and important project.
And they, I think we're really strong on our identity. You know, we provide uniforms, for example, and, you know, it's often like you hear of someone, oh, I see, like the man at the post office, oh, I see there's a new girl employed at Kathleigh Farms, and oh, she's so happy to work for you. And you're like, oh, what great feedback, just getting that from the community. And, you know, to have 2 new people start just while you're moving farms and they're still smiling, just goes to us, yeah, we are doing a good job in that process. And even we've had, you know, people leave our team because that hasn't been a great fit, but there's still people that know they could ring us and have a chat. Or so we don't look at someone leaving as a negative. Like, if they're not the right fit, that's okay. We'll just look for someone else.
Perfect. One final question for each of you, if I could. You talked about being at rock bottom 6 or 7 years ago, and you now find yourself in your own farm with an amazing team, incredibly well set up and professional business, and the future looking so bright. What are you most proud of, Cass, about the last sort of 5 to 7 years for you? And how does the future look?
I think I'm most proud of is that I'm finally actually becoming or starting to enjoy, being a wife and mother as part of my my goals. Before it was all about work, and all that other stuff was way down the list. It was all about work first, and to realise that, there's more to me than just how many cows have I milked or how much money's in the bank. I really feel like I missed out on a lot of that. And so, I'm proud of just becoming a well-rounded person, not just a worker and a dairy farmer. And I'm also proud to be able to, still enjoy our dairy farm business and love that, but also expand by doing, some work with Farm Owners Academy to share this great information with new people.
Perfect, Cass. Thank you. Rusty, for you, what are you most proud of, mate, and how does the future look?
Probably sound self-centered, but I'm probably most proud of myself, especially after being able to sit here today and talk with you, Hutch, in reflection of where you've come, where I've come and where I've been. It really cements to me that I did have to look after myself first. But in leading to that, it's also now that I actually call myself a business owner, not a dairy farmer. And one of my good mates has just written a book that says, "You are not your farm." And I think there is so much you can take from that, where so many of us identify ourselves as, this is my farm. It's Kathleigh Farms, where it's not that anymore for me. It's Kathleigh Farms is our business. It's the driver to get us to where we want in our life. And I think that's what I'm most proud of, that we've been able to turn the clock and go to reset, and then now enjoy the fruits of our business rather than the fruits of our farm.
To you both, thank you so much for sharing your story. I can't help but feel like it's going to resonate with so many farming families that are, working huge hours and feeling right up against it, stressed, real financial pressure, real inspiration to them on how it can be turned around with a focus on self and then a focus on good business practice. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you also for the way in which you guys turn up to the FOA community and to the impact you have and the support that you extend to others. It's incredible. We're really grateful to have you part of our team, Cass, and part of our community. It's just amazing. So appreciate your time today, and well done on all of your wins along the way.
Thanks, Hutch. It's been great to be here.
Thanks, Hutch. I really appreciate it, and the friendship that we've formed between it. It's been very special. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys. Well done. And so there you have it. Another cracking story. From rock bottom, massive financial stress, huge work hours, and real hardship on so many levels, to persisting through and getting around the right people and getting the right support, to establishing a farm, 500 cows, incredibly professional outfit, stable team. And now the future's so bright for Andrew and Cassandra, Kath and their family and their team. Such great people, such great alumni members to our community. Just such great people in their own right. So congratulations to you both again. I hope you've all found that insightful. And the final reflection for me is, I love that comment that for things to change, first I must change. And often when we're in hardship and when we're in adversity and things aren't going our way, we think that we've got to work harder and we think that everything out there has to change, whereas often the first thing that we need to focus in on is ourselves and how we're turning up. When we do, and when we do the deeper work around ourselves, then everything can change. So yeah, all the best, everyone. I hope you found that enjoyable. And thanks again, Andrew and Cass, for your time. Take care. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Profitable Farmer podcast by Farm Owners Academy. If you're new to this show, be sure to follow us. If you've been a long-time listener, let your friends know about us or come continue the conversation in the Profitable Farmer Facebook group. All the best as you grow your business and create your freedom farm. Until next time, keep being incredible.